mentioning, or he did a bit during his speech to Abney, this is Bode I'm talking about, talk about the possibility of crime coming back. He used that term wilding, which to me harkens back to, the 90s and Central Park and so forth. I didn't hear that too much tonight when he had arguably a larger audience.
I think, as Harry pointed out, there are issues that have historically not been effective at making you the front runner in a mayoral campaign, and I think a lot of them have been turned on their head. I'm not sure how many mayoral candidates coming into this race could have possibly guessed that going after stop and frisk would have been the single most effective way. Distancing yourself from the incumbent so much would have been the way to put yourself ahead in this race. And what de Blasio has really been able to kind of sail into, front runner status with is that he has hit all the right issues at all the right times, and it's just carrying him with a momentum that I think a lot of people are actually surprised by, frankly, because as Harry pointed out, they didn't work in past races. I'm not sure anybody could have guessed they might have worked as effectively as they did this time.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, and then you see these polls where it's clearly indicating that there's not that much of a difference between what Bode is actually saying and people agreeing with him. I mean, there are people who, in the polls that just came out, are demonstrating that they do support stop and frisk in sort of this selected and very sparingly applied way, and are arguing that it actually does work. But there are these boogeymen issues that sort of pop up, and you mentioned wilding being one of those terms that kind of, set off an alarm in your mind. And you point out Freddie Ferrer in 2005. There just seems to be this space where people, frankly, voters have become perhaps complacent. And we've had, this is sort of the first election in a while where there aren't these critical issues. And we sort of feel like we just need maybe a good manager. Who's the best manager? And the idea that de Blasio just hasn't really, while he's been very progressive, the idea that he's an extremist, as Bode suggested, isn't really sticking with folks, and they're just okay with that.
Yeah, is that right? Is that because he's not seen as an extremist, or Bode and Carry On haven't said it effectively enough?
He comes off like a reasonable guy.
It's
not like, let's light the streets on fire and give all the money away. He just doesn't come off
But didn't Freddie Ferrer come across as pretty...
Freddie Ferrer, who'd long been a Hispanic, Catholic, outer-borough moderate, basically ran alternating between being that and being a fire-breathing radical at like random intervals against a guy with infinite money who spent $106 million. So the combination was lethal. Bill de Blasio, who, my column this week is about him and Dan Cantor, the Working Families Party, and that relationship, which I think would probably trouble some people, but hasn't really been noticed. He sounds calm. He says sensible things, he's intelligent, and nobody thinks the dark days are nearly upon us, except occasionally Joe Bode when he slips into that mode. And I don't think it's compelling. And I think there's enough Bloomberg exhaustion.
At least a few weeks ago.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed.
And one of the things de Blasio has been smart about, while his rhetoric has been in many ways anti-Bloomberg, he's also presented himself as a non-inflammatory corrective to Bloomberg. I mean, he's not talking about nationalizing the banks. I mean, he's talking about not harassing innocent minorities, which is more palatable, particularly as the city has gotten more liberal.
And is it just my imagination, or does he seem to be a little bit warmer to Bloomberg now? Is that,
It's just because they saw each other the other day. Was it today that they just sort of clapped each other on the back? And yeah, I mean, of course, you're getting closer and closer. It doesn't make sense when people, in fact, have evinced a great deal of support for the incumbent to necessarily stomp on him while he's still there.
Okay.
Even if Bloomberg did it to him.
No comment.
Last word there. Thanks, guys, for being here. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank Harry Siegel, Deborah Lee Santos, Chris Smith, and Nicole Bode of DNAinfo.com for joining us tonight. I'll be back with the results of tonight's Snap Poll. Don't go away.